Hey folks, it is rainy at the Linn today, really rainy. And well, I suppose not that many folk are going to turn up because we're open, but it is pouring down. It's sort of eased up a little bit now, so I thought I just wanted to do this quick video because it's something that's been preying on my mind for a little while. I say quick, it's going to be a little bit longer than usual because I'm going to have to sort of yomp around the garden to various different spots, but I wanted to just talk about how nice this place is when it's pouring down with rain, because partly there are some amazing things about this garden, about gardens in general when it's raining, but also we are on the west coast of Scotland and it rains a lot here. If you've ever seen a rainfall map of the UK, the west coast is just vastly rainier than the east, because the Gulf Stream basically comes up from the equator. It hits the west coast of the European continent and everything dumps. So you get the same sort of thing in Norway, parts of Portugal, Ireland, Cornwall. And so in places like Cornwall and Ireland, northern Scotland, Wales, you have what is known as temperate rainforest, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's a rainforest. It's just not quite so warm as the tropical ones. But enough of that. When it's raining, there are parts of this garden which really come alive, which are absolutely beautiful. Like, look at this rhododendron up here. Like, the bark of it is absolutely glistening. The leaves are glistening. And there's a lot of these huge tree roadies in the gardens on the west coast of Scotland because, you know, they come from the Himalaya and they are, in fact, a wet weather plant. So you get a lot of them with this just sort of absolutely beautiful bark. And that's one of the first things I would always say you should be looking out for if you're in a garden and it's pouring down with rain. Like, you start looking, look at that. That's just gorgeous. You know, you're looking at bark, you're looking at foliage, because the water is just dripping off everything. It's glistening, it's beautiful. Like, there's just no reason whatsoever to be afraid of going to a garden in the rain. Now, there are obvious caveats here. Like, first of all, everybody around here knows this, but you've got to dress properly, which means proper shoes, no jeans because they do not ever dry out. They're a nightmare in the wet, and a proper rainproof coat. I assume you'll basically know this. Drink lots of coffee or tea because it cheers you up. But, you know, if you live on the west coast of Scotland and you are going to run away and hide every time it rains, you're not going to do much because it rains a lot here. So you kind of have to make your peace with it, I think. Now, one of the things, as I said, this is a temperate rainforest environment. And what that means is just huge amounts more rainfall than usual. Because we're on the Gulf Stream, the temperature variations over the year are a little bit more limited than they are in other parts of the country. So it doesn't quite get as cold here over the winter, and it doesn't really quite get as warm either. Look at this lichen and just in front of the house. It's just absolutely fabulous. If I could get the camera to focus on it properly. There you go. Dripping like now. If you want to see a standard everyone takes this photo of gardens around here, it is the dripping lichen on a rainy day photo. Everybody takes that one. We're coming at the house now, and the carnivorous bog from a slightly different angle than usual, because again, this is a question of the rainfall. Now, if you look at this, remember I called it a bog. Well, let's get a little bit closer and you'll see. Look at that. That is how wet the soil is that these Sarracenia are all growing in. And you get really good carnivorous plants, a lot of them in sort of the boreal forests in Canada, a lot of the bogs. So you just get low-lying land with poor drainage, fills up with water, you get these bogs forming. You get the same here in Scotland, and you get carnivorous plants in them. Now, let's go up this way, because there's a part of the garden that I'm going to take you into. See? Glorious wet foliage in the rain. It's absolutely beautiful. But there's a part of the garden I want to take you into which is actually closed to visitors at the moment, and it is the burn. We came this way on the last video, didn't we? I say apologies, this one's going to take a little bit longer. just because I'm gonna have to cover a little bit more room than usual on this one. But it is the burn. Now the Rosneath Peninsula, which is where this garden is effectively, it's like a big spine going out into the Clyde estuary with just this little fringe around it. And most of the houses are on that little flat fringe along the coast. But when the rain hits this spine on the top, it absolutely pours off in every direction. And, these are nice, aren't they? Look. They're just ripening up nicely. But it hits the spine on the top of the peninsula and it just cascades off in every direction. So you have these really deep carved burns all around us here. So again, if you're in any other garden, I mean, in this one, check out the burn. If you're in any other garden, if there's a naturally created as opposed to an artificial water feature, go and check it out, because it just changes so dramatically. If I can get down here without killing myself, because we rope off these paths when the garden's open to visitors right now, because it's a little bit treacherous and we don't have proper handrails yet, and you probably can't hear me now because the burn has gone absolutely nuts. So let's go, there you go. So this is absolutely cascading down from the top of the hills around us. Down here, down like that, through this incredible gorge full of rhododendron. Well, primarily rhododendron actually, tons of ferns, and it's just insane. Right, here are some more of these big tree roadies that I was talking about, with again so that gorgeous glistening bark is just absolutely beautiful. Right, and this is where you see like all of that brown water. That's just all the stuff getting churned up by the pouring rain, and it cascades down here under the bridge and down the waterfall. Now, do you remember I was saying temperate rainforest? One of the key features of temperate rainforest is lichen, moss and ferns. And so you can see like everything here is just dripping with moisture. Ferns are absolutely everywhere. Whether we planted them or not, they're just all over the place. You get liverworts growing, and they get really beautiful in the rain as well. Again, they just glisten. Look at that waterfall, it's absolutely incredible. Now I'm going to try and walk down this, here. Ooh. This is another gorgeous thing. That is a berberis which just hangs over the path, and those red leaves, when they get a little bit of sunshine behind them, are just incredible. Yeah, you can see why we don't open this bit, can't you? Anyway, let's get down the bottom here and hope Jer hasn't fenced it off too effectively, which he kind of has. Right, this is the bottom of the waterfall when it's in full space, and you can see how fiercely the water's flowing by all the breeze moving the bamboo and the rhododendrons around. But yeah, this is our little spot to sit with a lovely peaceful waterfall, which on days like this is not at all peaceful. It's incredible. And that's what I mean about these very, very condition specific, like a naturally formed water feature will change hugely in the rain. Look, a wee spider's web in amongst the leaves. Everything is dripping and beautiful. Now, the other main feature, which those of you who saw us on Gardener's World will have noticed, is the cliff behind the cottage. And that cliff, I mean, obviously a lot of water that hits the top of it, the top of the peninsula behind us flows down that burn and other burns like it. The cliff, on the other hand, still gets a lot of water flowing down it. Because it's a large mass of rock, it acts like a giant radiator. So that huge lump of rock there absorbs the sun's energy all day, radiates it all night, and it keeps plants here just 1 or 2 degrees warmer than anywhere else in the garden. And again, but just look, this beautiful glistening foliage. We've put in a couple of epiphytes, which do not in fact have roots of their own, apart from for attaching to the wall. We've got, I think, Saxifraga stolonifera growing under here. All sorts of liverworts, water dripping off in every direction. It is just gorgeous. And this is what I mean really by, oh, let's have a, that is a Rimu pine from New Zealand, and it's absolutely gorgeous. Anyway, this is what I mean by the temperate rainforest environment. Like that kind of growth upon growth upon growth upon growth, all dripping with water constantly because it's always raining. Now, I find it impossible to love the ecosystem that produces without loving the environment that produces the ecosystem. So since we've been here, I have learned to absolutely love the rain. Because the rain is what gives us this kind of incredible richness around here, just what makes of it, because you get enough sunshine, you get enough warmth, but you get also just this incredible just richness of life, and you wouldn't have that without the constant rain, and so I love it. The other thing is, this isn't the only place in the world you get temperate rainforests. You get them in New Zealand, you get them in the Himalaya, you get them in the Pacific Northwest, in the US, you get them in various other places. Also Patagonia in southern Chile. And so you get to plant temperate rainforest plants. Now this is our lower ponds, all very ornamental. And that is Gunnera manicata, which is, now apparently all of the ones grown in gardens around the UK are not exactly like the wild types, but if you think that lady's mantle collects rainwater beautifully, you should see this guy with its spines. See all these wee spikes? They're actually a lot softer than they look, so it looks horrible, but it's really not. It's actually not nearly as hostile a plant as it likes you to believe. The rainwater does make it collapse over the paths a little bit, but you get to grow plants like that for very good reasons. Like, this is what this exact environment produces in other parts of the world, and that's why it sort of makes sense for us to have the collection that we do. Actually, I'm going to cut back and have a look at something else. We've got like a couple of, there you go, see, this is what we started doing because this area gets so wet. These are plants from the North American equivalent of these sort of temperate rainforests. So you start to plant to your conditions, not necessarily to your immediate geographical environment. But as I said, this chance to do things that your environment produces in other, look at that, there we go, check me out, trying to be a proper photographer and everything. This is the other thing you can do, is seek shelter. So obviously we've got quite a dense tree canopy at the Linn. So there's lots of places you can sit, including this summer house, which the Taggarts built, which you can sit inside, safe from the rain, and watch the rain fall on this beautiful, beautiful lower pond. And honestly, the rain falling in this environment, when you can sit and just watch it and enjoy it like this, is one of the most meditative and beautiful things. And it may not be everybody's cup of tea, but I absolutely love it when it rains on this garden.